So feel those contact points between soles of your feet and the earth, the backs of your legs and the chair. Apologize, my dogs. And breathe in and just take some inventory of your body. What do you feel in your brow, in your scalp? Just breathe into it. Your neck. And your shoulders. And your back. Just noticing makes you want to stretch something out. You're welcome to do that, or you're just welcome to sit with it. Now take a deep breath and imagine you're drawing it in through the soles of your feet. From deep in the earth and all the way up through your body, into your chest, into your heart, and then all the way down into your belly. In fact, put a hand on your lower belly and just feel the air expanding your abdomen, leaving. Slow that breath down. Make it a count of, say, 4 for the intake. And then 4 for the exhale. Exhale. 2 more deep breaths like that. And then I invite you to say the phrase that for you allows you to embody or to channel or to receive unconditional love and unconditional acceptance. I have unconditional love. I am unconditional acceptance. You are unconditional love. You are unconditional acceptance. Whenever you're ready, you can rub your hands together and create some nice warmth there. Place them on your face or your neck or your chest, wherever you're just wanting a little extra healing and caress. And whenever you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Thank you. So this isn't super structured, but I want to sort of make sure that we give you the time to answer whatever questions you may have brought with you. I start with you, Trinette. Anything on top for you?
Yes. Twice now, I have been in situations where people of European descent were describing situations that they have been through. And in those presentations, they used harmful language, very harmful language. And I had to speak up on one of those occasions. And it was aware that I was having difficulty on the other occasions because 3 people reached out to me after the meeting. So I want to know when someone else is not stepping in, what I can do about them as a person of color.
Right.
I participate in meetings where most of the people are European descent. And sometimes I'm the only person of color there.
Yeah. So can I ask, okay, let me just get the questions and then I'll come back. Is that the main situation you're thinking about right now?
Yes, I did a situation with a friend last night, as we were told, on the homework. And I can bring that up later. It actually wasn't role playing, it was a real situation she was dealing with. But in terms of questions itself, that is the question on my mind. When someone is not speaking up and, you know, they're in charge, what can I do to stop that? It's very harmful.
Okay. Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
Catherine, what questions or wonderings do you have?
Well, I I'm I, d- I don't want this to be off topic, um, but it's how I'm processing what we practiced. And what I'm realizing is this may sound crazy, um, but often I am having that conversation with myself in my head, in my own head. Catherine is talking to Catherine and pressuring Catherine to say things or have an answer. And I don't think I actually have split personality disorder, but I'm realizing I need to be able to tell myself, um, you need to you need to delay, you need to defer, you need to decline. Um, because I tend to to jump in, I tend to feel this sense of urgency.
Mm.
And so, and when we practiced on Friday, I don't know if you remember, but I started, rather than deferring or declining, I started the conversation. So anyway, it's something I'm observing.
Mhm.
And in my work environment, I am the only person of European descent, and it's a very multi-ethnic work environment, and I have learned over the years I need to just keep my mouth shut. Um, but there are also, yeah, I'm learning, um, and how to when as someone of European descent, how do I support different people who are, um, if I, yeah, this isn't really a question, is it? But
Well, I'm hearing
a couple of
supporting
things.
others is a different
Yes,
is a
so
different question,
yeah, it's me
but
learning to, yeah,
you're it sounds like you're just needing some practice to say no because you feel a lot of resistance in yourself or feel urgency to jump in
hmm hmm
instead.
that's well put. Yes, and
Okay.
then in my work environment, res, how to support people, um, how to listen, and then support maybe after the fact, or when to step in.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Okay. Just to keep track of time, I'm gonna I mean we have till 1:30, so I could do up to a half hour with each of these. And if you don't mind, I want to do Trinette's first.
please, please, please.
Um, so, Trinette, what you were describing is situations in which, let me just please correct me if I don't have it, where European Americans are sharing an experience. Is this an experience of dealing with racism, or is race sort of a only implicitly part of it?
Race is definitely a part of it.
And they are using language that is harmful, and you feel,
Very, very harmful. And
and
actually say the words, and actually say the words that were said to them,
mm,
and saying that this was told to me by someone, and they will actually use the words, N words, H words, whatever they are, they will come out and use them.
mm.
That happened 3 times on one meeting. And then in another meeting,
We have some
someone
emails
was,
coming in just to let you know.
okay, okay.
Hey,
Um,
Marian,
mhm,
Jeanette
yeah,
is, we're working through a situation she's asked about. And so you were saying that they're repeating racist language that was said to them.
that's correct.
And that racist language then has an impact in the room,
Yes.
but no one is speaking up, so you feel like you need to.
Well, in that particular case, I did speak up. I did not say stop because the person in charge didn't say that. But I did say I never use that language, and that word is always something that I find is not in keeping with my values or my principles. I don't care what color I am, it's not a word that I use. So I did speak up, and I did say that.
So can I ask you, when you spoke up, what was the impact on you?
The impact on me was good because I knew that I could not just let that go unchallenged or without saying something about that. The impact on me also, I had a sense of tension from my head to my feet in just hearing the word.
Mm,
Um, and And so I did get some help with that later. But despite the fact of the tension that was in my body, and the word was a trigger for me, despite the tension in my body, I still was able to speak up. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think we should acknowledge some of the things you said. You were paying attention to your body and noticing how it was affecting you.
Right.
So despite feeling triggered, it sounds like you were able to stay in yourself enough to be aware of that.
That's right.
Which is great because, you know, you've described before that you've had traumatic experiences, and so dissociation is one of the ways people develop to cope with that. So
yes,
good for you. And then you did speak up.
Right.
So ideally, you wouldn't have to.
Right.
But I acknowledge your courage, and it's exhausting when you have to be the one.
Yeah.
So let me make a distinction between the kinds of conversations that we're learning in the training to do and this kind of situation. So the 5 steps where you really lean in and listen to people would be more for a one-on-one with one of these people, where you felt like you had some capacity to ask them about why they thought it was okay to use that language, or where you felt like you could have a conversation where they might have a chance to speak and you felt like you could listen. I'm not saying you should have that conversation. I think that's a very tall ask and would be very generous of you, and you shouldn't have it if you don't feel like you're in a good place.
Right.
But what you're describing is sort of more of an accountability conversation where there's harm being done and it's a group situation.
Yes.
What Amanda has, so one thing you could do is hold space just for yourself to recover that sense of okayness and there's something bigger supporting you. To also ask, you know, coming out of this, what do you need? You know, this has an impact on you.
Right.
What needs have arisen and how can you take care of them?
Right.
So that they aren't just pushing through it.
Right.
But then the strategy that Amanda has recommended for this kind of group situation is, you know, you are wanting to intentionally stay present with yourself, but instead of asking the other person and drawing them out, you are naming what you've heard. So I have heard this language, and when I hear that, and then you describe the impact, you know, that has a harmful effect on me. I feel my whole body, you know, how much ever you want to describe. But then instead of like coming back to them, you speak to the room.
Yeah.
And you say, I'm wondering what other people might be hearing.
Yeah.
And that allows you, so generally when somebody is confronted with something that they've said being harmful, their response is probably going to be to get defensive.
Yeah.
So rather than coming back to them and having out this back and forth and they're being like, I didn't mean that, by putting the question to the room, you call upon other responses that might support yours.
Yes.
And you broaden the conversation to, this is not just about whether it harmed you. It's lifting up a dynamic in their speaking
Yes.
that for the whole group to learn and to embody its highest values, this should be stressed. It's not just about like taking care of you or correcting them. It's about addressing the issue. And it's sort of a calling in.
Yes. Yes, I can do that.
Would you like to try it?
Sure.
So would you like one of us to be the person?
Yes, that would be nice.
Okay. I can do it, or one of you guys want to volunteer?
I wasn't here for the beginning, so I don't feel comfortable volunteering.
Okay. Would you like me to play it for you, Trinette?
To play what?
To play the white person, and I won't say the actual words, but
okay.
Maybe you could tell me. Good. So maybe you could tell me what kind of situation, so I get
Sure. I'll be happy to tell you the situation. This European person of European descent used to be married to a Black woman. He said that right at the meeting in front of the whole group, that she used to say, "Who is the HNIC?" And N means exactly what it says, only he did not. He said the whole phrase out. He said it several times, and he said, "I didn't say that, but that's what she used to say." So I went into a group one time and I said the same thing myself. And he said he almost got booted out of the room. Some people were telling him it's okay for her to say it, but not for you to say it. So I addressed that in my comments. And I said that I don't care whether the person is a person of color or a person who is white. I said that is not something that should be stated. It is offensive and so forth. I continued like that. Mm-hmm. So I gave him some benefit of the doubt since he, and I stuck with that. And I didn't call him out or call him a name or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I had to speak up on that. So that kind of sets the situation up in a way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't want to make this sound like it's telling you that the way you handled it was the wrong way to handle it. I think
that's okay.
Noting that it was harmful, I think was great.
Yeah.
You know, but that gives me a flavor.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, roll. All right.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, I mean, when I was married to, okay, wait, what's my name? I don't have
anything you want it to be. Tina.
Okay, so Tina.
Oh, no, you're Jim.
I'm Jim. Okay, so I was married to Tina.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I was married to Tina, she would say things like HNIC, and then I heard her saying it, so I figured it was okay, and I went into a group of people of color, and I actually said HNIC, and oh my gosh, they almost threw me out. And, I mean, I guess, but I don't understand why it's okay for some people to say that and then I can't. I mean, really, it seems like a little bit sensitive or something. Am I overdoing it?
Well, thank you for trying to explain that, Jim. I find that word and those words very offensive. I find that they put people down, and does not show respect for people, regardless of whether you're a person who's white or a person of color. I'm wondering how the rest of you feel about Jim saying those words.
And Catherine and Marian, I want to invite you to play other people in the room and just feel in yourself if you might speak up or what you might say.
Thank you, Trinette. Jim, are you hearing what Trinette is telling you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean, that I meant those words. I didn't mean disrespect. Yeah, I guess when she says it doesn't show respect, that kind of, ooh, that kind of ouches a bit because I didn't mean to be disrespectful.
So you didn't mean to be disrespectful.
No, of course not.
But you hear Trinette's giving you the same feedback about the words.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what I'm hearing.
And I want to, thank you, Trinette, for bringing this up in the moment, because it's not something that I probably would be thinking about, unless presented with it. And so I appreciate you bringing it up, because I, like Jim, don't want to be using offensive terms. And this is a really good reminder to me that sometimes I should pause before I say something that might even be remotely offensive. And so this was a learning for me. Even though you were addressing your comments to Jim, I appreciate it as another European American white person in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, I felt something. Catherine, I'm just explaining what I felt.
Please.
When you address Jim directly, and he defended, he jumped into the defensive category. That brought something up in me, a little bit of tension, a little bit that he's denying it. And so that increased the tension. And I'm thinking of you too. I'm thinking, you said that you want to know how to support people in your work environment.
Yes.
And if you go directly to that person and that person goes on the defensive about something, that may be a problem for you. Whereas if you address the whole group, as Erica was saying, you may get some more support, because bringing it up, you got defensive, and that hit me. I'm saying now he's denying it,
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Thank you. That's really good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I actually thought that realistically, in that situation, someone might have denied it even harder than what I was just doing
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely.
And that has an impact over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Trinette, for you, I'd like to hear how you experienced what I said, and then I can tell you what my intention was. Or we can do it in the other order.
You're talking to Trinette now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You didn't really, you didn't role play. I appreciated the comments, but you didn't get into the role playing situation. And the situation was, what would be your response when Jim said that? And the question was, how does other people in the room feel about it? If you could role play that session of it, then that would be helpful. So I'm asking you, the room, the question, how do the rest of you feel about that? And Catherine, this is your time to, Marian, this is your time to respond.
Oh, so Marian was responding to what you said, and you were
Marian was,
asking how did folks feel about what Jim said?
that's right.
Ah, okay.
She responded to me directly in terms of that, but she wasn't really role playing. She was asking me about the situation.
Actually, I was role playing.
You were role playing?
Yes. So let me tell you what my intention was. Were there other white people in the room besides?
I was the only one of color.
Okay. So I was serving as a white ally. And what I was trying to do was model for Jim and Catherine a way for Jim to see, to de-escalate the defensiveness and take on my responsibility and acknowledge that even though I didn't say it, I was bearing witness to the fact that Jim said something offensive and I had something to learn. And then, so I was trying to support you for raising it up and taking responsibility. You know what Amanda says about taking responsibility for European American whites in a room?
Yeah.
When there's been an injury?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do. So I was wondering if that felt at all, you know, supportive to you. What I was trying to say is, thank you. You know, I get it.
Okay, we're learning, and I'm learning too. So we're growing here. I want to tell you that when you said that, it kind of felt flat. I didn't really feel supported.
Okay.
What you were doing was de-escalating the situation, but nothing was really resolved. Nothing came forward that would deal with what happened in the seriousness in which it was said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Catherine, you
Is it okay? Trinette,
Sure.
can I have a do-over? Because your feedback makes sense to me. So when you said, I wonder what other people in the room are thinking. Okay, do-over. Um, my wise self would say, those words really are hurtful to me too. And I don't want to hear those words.
That's beautiful.
Can I also give some feedback for Marian? So one of the things I heard you, you know, sort of saying, I want to do better, but what I didn't quite hear was how it felt. So if you could think about, if someone says, quoting someone else, the N-word, etc., really offensive language, but they say it as though they're not the ones really saying it. So I have had this experience before where I don't grasp how, like, and I've had this argument with my husband who will insist it's not the same thing as if you say it intending it. So one of the ways that I could imagine responding it is acknowledging that flew right past, or that you weren't aware of how much emotional impact or how much harm that was doing, and that you appreciate that acknowledgement. So that is, you did say you appreciate the acknowledgement, but there was less of the what learning you were having and like the immediate I felt language, or you know what I mean? Do you hear the difference? It's very slightly different, but by sort of owning the I didn't see that either, and now that I do, wow, I really know that I need to do better, right? And if that's what your response would have been,
I was role playing that. I mean,
sure.
I would feel, incredibly deeply offended. But I was trying to role play like sort of halfway between. And yes,
Okay.
I see what you're saying, that that acknowledging Trinette's pain is only part of it. I need to give voice to the pain it causes in me, and that perhaps sort of gives credence to the responsibility I'm saying I'm going to take.
So ideally, there's a little bit of the sort of vulnerability of telling on yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah. Well, just, be real. Be real. So let's try this again. You okay with that, Trinette?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. More practice, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I am Jim. So, well, when I was married to Tina, she would say the N word, and she would just use it all the time. And so I got used to hearing it as something that was comfortable in this community. And so when I was in I sort of forget that I'm the white guy. I'd go into a room full of African Americans, and I would use the terms that I heard her use, and I would say, hey, my N, and they almost threw me out. And wow, that was just I thought we had some trust, and I thought they sort of accepted me as one of them, and I didn't realize that it would be so offensive. But yeah, I don't know why it's so different.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but that word is extremely offensive to me. It stands against everything that I stand for and that I believe in. And I think it should never be said. I'm wondering what other people in the room are feeling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't mean it that way, but okay. Well, you can push back against me. All right.
I think what's important here, Jim, is to really kind of take a breath and hear what Trinette is expressing about how deeply felt the hurt is for her when she hears those words. And I'm connecting with that right now. And it's it not only feels uncomfortable, but I'm really sad, and and frustrated because here we are, you know, most of us European American white folks, and I don't feel comfortable hearing or using that terminology either. But I really want to honor Trinette for bringing that forward to us. And I think we need to make a commitment to, and I'm going to make a commitment even more to avoid using those terms. And Jim, is there some way that, you know, as you're taking this in, you can also think about it in terms of, you know, the future and
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. I'm learning this is a hard lesson. Yeah.
and I think it takes practice, and it's our responsibility to practice. So I'm taking that on, and I just wonder if other people in the room kind of feel a sense of, you know, sharing ownership for this and making it be our work. So, you know, maybe Trinette doesn't have to have this conversation so many times in the future. Catherine, what are you thinking? I see you nodding your head.
I'm really glad Trinette said something, and yeah, that word is just it's a it's a it's a punch in the gut, and it's it's something um, I've yeah I I hope we can agree that that word doesn't have any place in our public conversation here, or hopefully privately either. But whew, I'm taking a deep breath right now, and I I hope we can do. Um, yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation, and it takes courage to say when things hurt. So thank you again, Trinette, and um, I I wonder what other people think too. Um,
Great. Trinette, how did that feel?
That felt so much better.
Mm.
I saw so much growth in all of us from that role play.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw both Marian and Catherine sort of expanding the conversation from
Right.
the two of us and our relationship, and sort of making apologies about an offense, to the bigger issue of, what is our discourse amongst each other, and what are we going to step up to do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was good.
good. So, like I said, that is a different kind of conversation than what we are going to be practicing with the lean in, but it's good to have that tool in your hip pocket. And
Yeah.
we were still also using that, checking in with our wise self, staying in our bodies and paying attention to what the
Right.
body is telling us,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I saw Amanda pop in. So, Amanda, this was a situation that we were role playing. Are you still there?
I am, and I just decided to listen off camera so as to not be disruptive. You were in the middle, and beautiful.
Yeah, so Trinette's situation was a public situation. So I was just describing the difference between the lean in, plant a seed, and that. So we just practiced this other kind.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm glad you all are, they call that pulling something to you.
Awesome. Well, Catherine had a situation that we wanted to do too, and this was, you were describing having pressure in yourself about, do I speak up or do I not, and how do I listen to my wise self when really it should be a defer, one of the defer, decline, delay conversations. So do you want to set the stage or tell us?
I don't think I have. Oh, it's hard to pick a specific conversation. And I think part of the reason I was drawn to this training is um, I'm committed to doing the work, but sometimes I feel like I'm with the right intentions. I guess I want to do this training because I don't want to be someone with the right intention asking the wrong question at the wrong time. Does that make sense?
Say a little bit more. What is it that brings on that sense of urgency and the arguing with yourself?
Um, I think okay, I'll give an example.
Yeah.
So I'm at a staff meeting and we're talking about programs for our agency. And we serve a lot of different communities. And there's someone of European descent who comes in and will sort of brag about the things, not what the agency's doing, but the things he is doing that are not, they're not programs for the agency. It's just his own, it's, it's sort of like white savior complex bragging.
Mm.
And it really gets on my nerves because I want to, yeah, this isn't a really good example.
That's another public moment.
I've really botched some public moments. In the Friday meeting where Zoe said she didn't mess things up, I thought, boy, I have really messed things up. I've done some really stupid things that I've learned from. So, and yeah, but I'm learning and I'm trying to learn and I'm holding space for my own transformation as well. So we can move on to, yeah,
Can I say something? Oh,
please.
just what I would say, Catherine and Amanda and all of us, when we're noticing things inside of our organizations, where people are coming at it from a white-centered kind of frame, or wherever, people are doing whatever they're doing from whatever it is that they know how so far. One of the things that you can do is to be a change maker, but not necessarily at the level of, hey, so-and-so, I want to take you to a side and let you know, it sounds a little bit like white savior syndrome. I wouldn't necessarily do that with somebody without having a relationship with them. But I could say, as a volunteer or a staff person, I'd love us to check out this article together that focuses on white savior syndrome, or that focuses on, the danger of, all white boards, or, you know what I mean? or color blindness. It doesn't have to be long or anything, but it's because what you want to do is build a capacity around you as you're growing and you're understanding. You really do want to bring your people with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that seems like an awesome way to have the conversation. A little bit of what was happening in the previous role play of who do we want to be? What are we committed to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Erica, I don't know where you all are at this moment in terms of everybody who raised their hand for some time, but I came on because I did want to talk about the training for trainers as a possibility, or make myself available to talk more about that to anyone else, anyone on this call who is interested in that. So I know we have until 1 for this, but I'm also willing to stay.
We have till 1:30 actually. So.
Okay, well I put in the email 1, but that's good.
Okay.
Whatever works.
Well, Marian wasn't on at the very beginning, and so I didn't gather up whether you had a particular situation you were wanting to role play.
Well, I do, and it comes from it comes out of a group situation, and I'm thinking that I might just change my mind about which one I want to role play. I don't know. All right, so I have two. I have one medium situation and one difficult situation. The difficult situation is that I live in Arlington, Massachusetts, and there are 2 competing racial justice organizations in town that are both struggling because of the way they're organized. However, I'm on the outreach committee for each organization, and they both have what I feel are targeting the BIPOC community for outreach, when what they really need to be doing is outreach to white European American whites to make the community more welcoming, instead of trying to draw in people of color to, have them tell the community, which is a totally white, almost totally white, suburban, community. So I got really triggered at a meeting because the chairperson for one of these committees, we did a go around by way of introduction to find out, what brought us to being on the committee and to doing the outreach work. And she's an older woman who has a long experience of doing work with African communities. She's done, like service work and stuff like that. And I'm paraphrasing, and I'm gonna, for time's sake, not try to be kind. I'll be a little bit kind, but the gist of what she said was that I find being around people of color and difference more interesting. And that's where I, want to spend my time. And so I'm the chairperson of this committee because I want to bring more of those people into the work. And in the moment, that was another, public moment. And so I chose to deal with the systemic issue at the meeting. And there were a few, and tossed it out to the room. And I also have an ally, a European American woman who is also, doing a lot of work on this. And so we got the group to recognize the importance of bringing in European American folks as an important piece of outreach that may need to come first. But I need to follow up with this chairperson, and so I arranged to have a one-on-one with her that I haven't had yet.
Okay. So there's someone else waiting in the waiting room. So I just want to, do you mind if I bring her in, someone else in the class?
No, I don't mind.
And then she'll get the recap. Hi, Elisa. Marian just gave us a scenario. So let me just see if I understand this. The scenario is that you're part of 2 racial justice organizations in the same town, that both of them are targeting or have as a goal involving more BIPOC folks, and you're feeling like they need to do work with white folks. And so it sounds like you expressed that at a meeting and got some good response, but there's still, the chairperson of one of the organizations has expressed that is a little bit wedded to that idea of having BIPOC folks, because she personally feels like people of color are more interesting or something like that.
And she doesn't acknowledge that she feels that she's already done all of her work.
Ah. And you want to have a one-on-one with her.
Yeah.
So before we do that, I know I want to put that on pause, because I was first asking you so that I could get a sense of what our time would look like. Amanda's also here and wanted to give folks the opportunity, if they wanted to, hear about the Training for Trainers program. So I want to see how many of you would like to hear about that. So at least 3 of you. Okay.
Yeah.
Amanda, are you still there?
I am, and I really want Marian to, I don't want to interrupt where you are, start with where you are with Marian. So maybe what I could do is just, come back in a few minutes, give you some time to actually work that through. And then folks who want to, we can do it then, or we can go in another room if Alyssa needs some time. So I just wanted to make sure that if you wanted to know more about it, I could tell you about it.
It sounds like there's definitely some interest.
Okay.
Can people here stay past 1 o'clock?
It's already 1. So, but I was planning to stay till 1:30. We could do a few minutes on your role play, and then.
You want me to come back at 1:15? How about if I come back at 1:15?
1:15, does that sound okay?
I just have a question, but I don't know even if this is the time to is this time to ask a question of somebody, I wasn't even sure. That was why I came on. So I don't want to interrupt anything, but I just had a question I wanted to ask somebody, but I can do that another time too.
Is your question something quick that we could get a sense of, whether it's an email or a?
So my question is more along the lines, and actually Dr. Kemp is doing a training with my school tomorrow morning. So maybe this is more something that I should email, but just, you know, in the training, I'm just really wanting to, I really want to know how I can incorporate conversations with students. We work in a school where we do have students of color, but not as many. Like, we have a very small population of students that would be, and I don't even like non-European, or I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly, but, and I don't want to be offensive in the way I'm saying it. I'm trying to figure out how do I even have these conversations, but I want kids to feel safe. I want everybody to feel safe, but I want to be able to celebrate differences and acknowledge differences in a way that's not making people feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't want anybody to feel like there's a spotlight shined on them in a way that feels uncomfortable. And how do I do that? How do I help kids, everybody, to understand what's going on in the world and to have these conversations in a safe space? I guess that's my question. Does that make sense at all?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I want to know, how to do that, how to support that, coming from my life experience and not understanding, you know, what each person is going through. How can I support that and encourage that in a way that does no harm? I don't want to do harm to anyone. I don't want anybody to feel like it's done in a way where they're singled out or they feel uncomfortable, or, you know, I want our students who would, you know, be students of color to feel like they're loved and cared for and nurtured and supported in a safe way. That's the only way I know how to say it. I don't know how to say it any other way.
Yeah, it's right on. Amanda, I saw you on mute, so were you gonna respond, or do you?
I think, you know, Marian has already started asking for her thing, so I think it's good that we got what Alyssa wanted to tap into, and so yeah, so I'd be happy to come back. Let me just come back in a few minutes. Let me finish something. Yeah, I'll come back, and then maybe I can take on what Alyssa's saying. It's very helpful to hear you too, Alyssa, because we will be with you tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. So I didn't know the best way. Like, I knew you had the hours. I know I've been doing the training, so I didn't know, like, is it
We're
better?
gonna bring it up. Good for you, though. Good for you to come in. All right.
Myself,
I'll be back in a few.
I have to leave at 1:30, so I'll meet
Okay.
myself, and, you know, just if she comes back in time, that's great, and if not, then hopefully we'll have another opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's do Marian's role play, and definitely we learn from each one of these, even when we ourselves are not doing the role play. But would you like me to be your colleague?
Lynette.
Lynette? Sure.
Sure.
Okay, so we're meeting privately, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hey, Marian, what did you want to talk about?
Well, I'm want to thank you for welcoming me onto the committee, and I was really I really want to honor all of the work and experience that you have and that you've done throughout your life leading up to now. And I'm hoping to learn from that experience. As you know, Rebecca and I are taking the training that's being offered for community organizing in predominantly white suburbs. And so we're doing a lot of reflective work as well. And I am trying to bring some of that and some of the things that and applying that to some of my experiences also in doing this work. So I was wondering, like, what was it like for you at the last meeting when we kind of got into a conversation more about doing outreach to some of our European American community members? I know that you would, your plan initially was to start with BIPOC communities. So I was wondering what that was like for you when the group started talking about that, and if in your conversation with Drew, who's your counterpart and colleague for the other commission that's doing outreach, if you had a chance to talk about that.
Well, I don't, honestly, Marian. So it feels like our communities are so white. These efforts are so white, and we are really replicating the kind of segregation that's already in our schools, in our neighborhoods, and it's just white, white, white. And how are people going to see other perspectives or have relationships with other people or accountability for their blind spots if we keep just working in groups of white people?
Yeah, I've heard that question before, and I actually have had that question, and what I keep coming back to are some of the, really going back to the basics around, the power of just my white presence and how overwhelming the white presence of our community is. And just even from a perspective of, humility and trying to, in order for us to make space for BIPOC folks to come forward, I feel like we need to help the predominantly white, European American white privileged people in Arlington understand that, space, it requires space to make transformation. And that without us working and reaching out to the white community and offering them tools to do that, we're actually not creating the space that we think we are.
I'm going to pause you there.
Yeah.
And challenge you a little bit. So you a little bit took the bait when I said, I don't understand why, and then you explained to me why, right?
Yeah.
The difference between doing this, and we're sort of getting ahead into the lean in part,
Yeah.
but the difference between these 5 steps and the way conversations usually do is that you resist that impulse to get into the argument. What you're trying to do is to, assuming that you have centered down and you're ready to have this conversation, you want to pull it from the other person by waiting, by creating the kind of space you're talking about, which means you're mostly saying very little.
Okay.
Okay. So you're saying, or say more about that. You know, like
Yeah.
very little. Okay.
Yep.
So let's do a do-over.
Okay.
So, okay, Marian, what did you want to talk to me about?
I wanted to follow up on the part of our conversation we had at the last meeting where you were asking us what brought us to doing outreach work in particular. And you had mentioned, all of the experience you had in working with groups in Africa and wanting to, really have a place where we were surrounded with diversity.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about, especially given the predominantly European American white community that we're in, and how do you envision that looking?
Well, right. So, I mean, wow, like when I was in Africa, it was just so amazing to be freed of all of these hang-ups that we have in white culture. Like you have to do things exactly this certain way. And there was just joy and a life to it, and the ability to be spontaneous without just planning everything ahead for 5 months, and it just felt like, wow, if more white people could understand that there's that kind of richness in not only being surrounded by white people. I mean, that's what I was hoping when we joined this organization. I would have more of that in my own life, but that we'd be creating more of that in our community,
And so tell me about how, like, more about your, how that sort of environment was achieved. Like, what was your process in terms of kind of shedding or transforming the typical European American white issues? Like, it sounds like it was a really free-flowing,
Well, I mean, partly I didn't have to do it because I wasn't the one in charge, right? Like it was their culture and that's how things work there. And it just gave me this experience of how it could be different. And
so
because of it.
Yeah, and I really like how you are taking responsibility to helping our community in Arlington move closer to that. But the reality is we have all of these systemic and deeply rooted. I've had to learn, and what brought me to this in particular was, for instance, how difficult it is to get housing here and bring folks in. And so I've had to really look at, I'm lost.
Good, but that was more of the flavor, right? Did you hear how I was starting to
Yes.
in the conversation, you might need to do some more of that kind of pulling out. The next step, rather than, again, resisting that urge to answer your, the response to her, is to ask. So this is step 4. Would you like to hear from me? Would you like to hear my perspective, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a moment of stopping to actually get her buy-in to hear you.
Yeah.
And then that's the point at which you share.
Okay.
But when you share there, you want to be sharing really heart stuff. And so again, this is not the argument about why to do it that way. It's something about connecting to her story, but also.
Right.
So it might be something like, I can really see why that experience would be so powerful for you. And I want more of us to have it too. But if we don't know ourselves and we're just using people to give us that experience, we can really do harm.
So
something that short.
yeah. And so the thing is, I don't think she's really defended about feeling like she's done all her work already.
Well, okay, so here we go back to, what is your intention? Because if your intention is to make her see that she hasn't yet done all of her work, you're probably going to be frustrated.
Right.
Because that is not within your power.
Right. Well,
so what is your intention?
My intention is for her to allow space for the group to grapple with first, to be patient with the group, so that the other European American white folks can examine their implicit bias issues, because they're there.
So why do you feel that examining implicit bias is so important? How does it make a difference for you?
It's like a medical doctor and do no harm. I don't want to perpetuate the problems in an organization that is tasked with doing just the opposite.
Right. Somehow you need to find an intention in order to be really empowered and grounded in this conversation. It has to be an intention that is about how you want to be, or what you want to do, that is not contingent on her reaction. And I recognize you do want her to change or make space or whatever, but shift the focus to how you want to be.
Okay.
And we're almost at time, so I need to close us and sort of give you that as homework to think about and journal about.
Yeah.
So that Amanda has at least a few minutes. But thank you. That sounds like really challenging to break through denial, right? Amanda's like, yes.
It is.
Thank you.
So I wanted to at least briefly touch on, is it Alyssa?
Yeah, Alyssa.
Alyssa, what she brought up as well. And, you know, and this is going to be brief, Alyssa. So the reason why we started the whole thing with transforming your own hidden bias is so that you, as a person, as a teacher in this case, have enough knowledge, self-awareness, so that when you said you don't want to do harm, so that you are aware of your own tendency towards bias and you can take active steps to correct. So we know that in our society, the US, that there's a tendency to favor whiteness, right? That's just been established. And it exists among people of color too. Okay, that has been established. There's a tendency to favor whiteness. And there's also a tendency to associate negativity with people of color, especially with Black people, people of African descent, but also with other people of color. There are all kinds of negative stereotypes. Mm-hmm. So then your work as a teacher then is knowing that that is the context in which your school was created, in which your church was created, if you know you have a church, and in which it's the water that your students are swimming in. Then you've got two things to take on: the tendency to center or favor whiteness, and the tendency to disfavor or associate negativity with people of color, especially Black people. So so when we gave you those 5 steps, I think step 1 was awareness, right? So it's cultivating awareness and looking in your room, your classroom. What do I have up on my walls that's implying limitations to my students of color, to all students, but implying limitations for what students of color could be or aspire to by their mere absence, or by overemphasizing certain things that people of color have been associated with for a while, like basketball, for example, and Black men. We said step 2 was to take stuff down. So if I was a teacher, part of what's happening about race isn't even verbal yet. It's all in my preparation for what I've done, what's in the room, what's in my syllabus. And when you said, Alyssa, this thing about not putting anybody on the spot, like if you have a room where you have students of color who are a minority, I don't know if I think that's the situation at Duck, right? It's predominantly white student body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have students of color and, but it is a very small portion of our population. And I think I guess what I was saying and I'm a school counselor, so I'm a little bit different. I'm not a classroom teacher, so I go into the space generally other than kids meeting with me in my office. So, last week, one of the things that really stood out to me in our training, and I think that's kind of what I was thinking on was, just because somebody is Black or somebody's Chinese or somebody's Latino doesn't mean they are like the spokesperson for all people of color. And so I would never want a child to feel like everybody then looks at them like, well, how do you feel about this? Or, how does this feel to you? I don't know if that makes sense, but
of course,
I want to be very cautious for all students, but my students who might feel a little bit like it's highlighting different.
But that's why I approached it this way, Alyssa, because it's part of what's going to make somebody not feel on the spot or somehow targeted is what is in the space around them that makes them feel part of the norm already.
Right. Like feeling safe in their space, feeling
safe, but feeling like they are already
a part.
Their racial cultural background is already included in the space.
Yes. Okay. I got it.
Without them having to say a word. There's
Right.
already stuff up on the walls. They're already reading stuff. They're listening to stuff. Their teachers are, or their counselor is making reference to authorities who are of different racial backgrounds, including their own.
Okay. Like laying the groundwork before they even are there.
Yes, that groundwork is key.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you have on your walls cues people what's of interest to you or what's
Right.
important to you before they even come in, or who you refer to in a conversation. I'm talking about as an authority, or as a quote you just read, or a snippet of poetry.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All that is implying to someone that you have cultural awareness and respect,
Yeah.
without putting them on the spot at all. And then somebody may want to add something to you. They may want to say, Miss Messina or Dr. Messina, I didn't know you liked so-and-so,
Yeah.
but you have it,
That
so
makes
they can initiate the conversation. It doesn't have to be coming from you.
Yeah, I want it to be authentic. I want people to be able to authentically engage in a conversation, and so I hear what you're saying, having those be a part of what we're doing, and then allowing people to feel safe in that space, because we're creating that environment.
Right, to bring it up. And so, like I said, a school has a curriculum. That's one of the key things you have. But I know schools also have all kinds of messaging on your walls and in the bathrooms and stuff like that. But you also have adult bodies. And if your adult bodies who have power are all white, then you've already communicated a whole bunch to your students.
Yeah. That's helpful. I appreciate that. It's just a question that I've been having throughout. I took the training in the summer, and then I started last week, and I feel like I've not quite known where to interject that question. And so today felt like a space, to ask that question. So it gets me thinking.
I'm so glad you did, because I think so many teachers, and I know you're a counselor, but so many people work with young people that they want to know, how do we talk about this, Amanda? Want to talk about it. And part of before you do the talking is this prep work.
Yeah.
To see differently and then to add stuff in. That's authentic to you. So you may need to be expanding what you're listening to.
Right.
Or, I can't make any presumptions about you. I don't know who your favorite poets are, or women theologians, or, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I get that. And that does, when I took the training in the summer feels like a really long time ago now, because we've been back for a month or whatever at our school. So, but that is a good reminder about what's around. So I appreciate you bringing that back up, because I did that at my house, but it's different to do it in your workspace. So I appreciate you answering that, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You'll be doing our training tomorrow morning. So
yeah, I'm so glad you were on here, because I will emphasize that in the morning. That helps me bring the things together.
Well, I know I've had conversations with other, teachers that have some of those similar questions, like, how do we authentically, have these conversations and enter into this, and I know it's not a conversation, it's an environmental thing. It's a classroom, it's our being. It's not just like the environment, but it's who we are and what we value, and in valuing everybody's unique, characteristics and unique styles, and celebrating that. So I want to do that. I want everybody to see themselves as celebrated and safe and encouraged and loved, and so it's just, so anyway.
I got you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for being here and answering my question, taking the time, because I know we're over and I need to go do a lesson about feelings. So
cool. Bye. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, ladies, I know we're over time too. So maybe what I should do is just say that for the training for trainers to be eligible to be in our program, you complete the curriculum first. And then you can actually teach other people to do it. But you, of course, need to do it and internalize it in your own life. So when you're teaching other people, it's like I was just talking with Alyssa, it's authentically part of you. You know, because that's the basis of your strength and your credibility, is when you have it inside. When you've done the work of, you know, looking at your walls, taking stuff down, you know, just basically everything I just said to Alyssa. When you've been on that journey yourself and you've used our curriculum, and if it's been helpful to you, then of course it makes sense that you would want to train other people in it. And we would love to have you. So I know, Trinette, you're at the very beginning. You kind of skipped a step by coming right on in to Stop Being Afraid. And after this, the next step for you really would be to do that Transform Your Hidden Biases training. I mean, if you would like to continue with us, that would be the next step for you. And Marian, I think you've already done the Transform Your Hidden Biases training. And here you are on Stop Being Afraid, this deep dive. And I think you might be poised, if this resonates with you, for the training for trainers. Have you had any one-on-one sessions yet?
Yes, I have. And I also will be having 3 with Erica that
Right.
schedule for after this.
Right.
And I was also wondering, is it possible to talk to somebody who's sort of like in the middle of the train the trainer training, just to kind of get a sense of like how they're experiencing it?
I guess so. What I would say is do your 3 sessions with Erica.
Yep.
And then if you want to talk to someone who's recently completed the training or someone who's in the middle of it, we could ask around and see, you know.
Yeah, just because I'm kind of curious how people are using it, and, you know, that kind of,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Oh, yeah. I think it'd be better to talk to someone who's completed it then, if you want to know how people are using it.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, well, we can just, you know, ask around, Erica, and I'm sure someone will be happy to talk with you about how they're doing with it.
That's great.
All right.
That's great. And this is awesome. And
Awesome. Thanks for pulling it towards you, coming to the office hours,
yeah,
working it through.
Yeah, thank you.
Erica.
Thank you both.
you.
Those were
Thank you.
really good scenarios.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right.
thank you. We'll see you next Friday.
Perfect.
Yep. Mm-hmm.